Welcome to the Disrupting Obesity podcast. I'm Charlotte Skanes, and I'll be sharing ways to regain control over your body and lose an extreme amount of weight naturally. Being fat is about so much more than just the food. It's about your relationship with food. That means that dealing with your weight is about more than just the food, too. You have to change that relationship. You have to start disrupting obesity. All right, flamingos, we are back for episode 102, and this time we're going to take another little look at our list of 101 weight loss truths. Last week I got off to a great start. We got the first 20 done. We're going to see how many we can make it through today, and we might as well just get started. All right, so number 21 is one of my all-time favorite things to say. It's one of my all-time favorite truths about weight loss. I'm not just delighted by it because of how easily it pokes the bear, because it pokes so many bears and it's so much fun. But anyway, number 21 is you don't have to exercise to lose weight. And boy, oh boy, do I get a lot of pushback with this one, which is fine. And I get it, right? Movement is important. Being fit is terrific. Having muscle on your body, super duper important. But the reality is we've all been told for decades that the only way to lose weight is through diet and exercise. And people hear that and they go, oh, well, if I can't exercise or I won't exercise, then I guess I can't lose weight. So there's no point trying to get the food under control. We need to separate those two things so that exercise stops being a barrier. Because the truth of the matter is you do not have to exercise to lose weight. You just don't. They're going to tell you you do all day long, and it's not true. And I don't know that people are necessarily lying outright. I think maybe they don't want to understand. I think there's a fair bit of bias with this one because, we all know why Gladys gets up on her high horse with this one. But the reality is still, you don't have to do it. I lost 201 pounds with no exercise at all. I'm cutting weight right now. Exercise is not part of that. I'm doing it by controlling the calories because at the end of the day, that is what it comes down to. Are you taking in fewer calories than your body burns? If that's the case, you're going to lose weight. The other reason why I think exercise is dangerous, and bear with me because obviously exercise isn't dangerous, but it's dangerous in this sense because of the permission slips it lets us write. So your inner dialogue might look something like, I was so good today. I went to the gym. I walked however much. I deserve to eat this. I burned so many extra calories by exercising today that, I earned this. I need this. And that's the even more dangerous self-talk that we get into. I need it. I'm exercising, so my body needs this extra food. Well, I think before we get all wrapped up in that mindset, it's probably a good idea to just do some basic Googling to see how many calories exercise actually burns. Because of this diet and exercise myth, we all have this idea that exercising burns like a ton of calories. And no, it doesn't. I wish it does, but it doesn't. And I mean, I've done whole episodes on this myth trying to push back. Number 9, I think, is called Stop Exercising to Lose Weight. And episode 40 is Don't Exercise to Lose Weight. Obviously, those are kind of clickbaity titles, but they're still true. Please don't let your inability to exercise or just the fact that you don't want to do it, don't let that stop you. You can still get your weight under control. And you can always add exercise later if you feel like it. I mean, it's not necessary, but it's definitely something that you could add as you go because the benefits are huge. Yes, you do get to eat slightly more calories. Your balance will improve. If you have more muscle on your frame, that means you get to eat more calories because that TDEE thing that we were talking about last week, the BMR component, your basal metabolic rate, it goes up if you have more muscle on your frame because it takes more calories to keep the muscle going than it does to keep the fat going. There are huge advantages to exercise. And I think it's always interesting when people attack me for this one because I don't think they understand my backstory. I don't think they understand that I've, had to come back from dealing with atrophy. They obviously don't know my journey with fitness, with muscle atrophy, with any of this physical stuff and all the physiotherapy that I've had to do over the years. But this is about the mindset part. This is about explaining to people who are very afraid, you don't actually have to still be afraid of exercise, because you don't have to do it at all. You can just meet yourself where you are and start dealing with things and taking control of the little things that you can, without putting all of that extra pressure on yourself that you've got to get to the gym, or you've got to get in 10,000 steps a day, or any other arbitrary and random exercise thing that has been assigned to you. You don't have to worry about that. You can focus on the food first. And I think too, maybe people who are so big on this, everybody's got to exercise thing, I don't know if they've ever lived in a bigger body. I don't know if they've ever tried to, I don't know, do a jumping jack in a body that weighs over 300 pounds, or just get down on the floor and get themselves back up. That's a workout in and of itself when your weight is really high. And I don't think people understand just how much more difficult it is even to move. I couldn't cross my legs when I was over 300 pounds, let alone go and do a bunch of squats or bench presses or something. I don't know, get on a treadmill. Like, it wasn't going to happen. Physically, there was the barrier, but the mental barriers were even bigger. I was always afraid I was humiliating myself. I always felt like people were looking at me. You're working out and you stop moving, but your body keeps going. There was just so much potential for embarrassment and humiliation. It felt like at every turn. And I didn't even want to walk through my neighborhood and have people looking at me and thinking, oh God, there she goes. Maybe she's finally going to do something about her weight. And I know that was all about me, and it really wasn't about them. But that's not the point either, because I'm the one whose emotions I have to manage if I'm going to get my weight under control. So please stop beating yourself up for this one. Just let it go. This can be something you revisit later if you want to, but you really don't have to. Calorie deficits don't know how old you are. There's a lot of ageism going on in weight loss. The messaging, again, for a very, very, very long time has been that once you hit a certain age, it becomes impossible to lose weight, or it's so difficult that there's no point even trying. It's horseshit. It's all a lie. None of it is true. The calories don't know your age. They just don't. And I understand that your body does. Gladys, don't. Please just put the keyboard down. It's going to be fine. Just bear with me. But I think it's really important. This one's connected to the exercise one, in the sense that the messaging has stood as a barrier, but the truth is the messaging is a lie. So we need to get rid of that. We have to stop telling particularly women who are postmenopausal, that they aren't able to lose weight anymore. It's not true. A calorie deficit is a calorie deficit. And yes, there are factors that can make it more difficult, but there are also things about age that make it easier to lose weight. And most of them are mindset issues. While you and I both know it's not about the food, it's about your relationship with food. So if you have an edge on getting that relationship with food part in check, you have an edge. When I started one-on-one coaching, some of my earliest clients were women in their 70s. And it wasn't just amazing to watch them dropping the weight. It was amazing to see how much more quickly they were able to adopt the mindset strategies, how much faster they could implement those changes and start to understand things like their food map, start to do the work digging into their relationship with food. There are facets of this that I think when we're younger, maybe we don't have the mental space, or we don't have the perspective of time to be able to do this. So please ignore all of the ageist bullshit and all of the chatter out there about this. Yes, definitely it can be harder. Sure, there are things that impact that. But there are also things that make it easier. And I think those things override, because typically they're mindset issues, and they override the difficulties that you might encounter. Your drive and your desire to get things under control as you age can really go up. So you might as well take advantage of that and get this done. Number 23, focusing on the food is a distraction from the real work of weight loss. All right, I have been banging this drum for a couple of years now, even longer if you've been following me on social media. Focusing on the food is 100% a distraction. If all you're doing is worrying about the next meal and weighing things out and measuring things out and, oh my God, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? You're desperately trying to find ways to make cauliflower rice appealing, and you're trying to find something to use instead of bread for your sandwiches. You're working all the substitutions. You're taking away all the foods that you enjoy eating and swapping in stuff that you can kind of tolerate, but not really. It's a distraction. It's totally a distraction. It really doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you've chosen to try carnivore or paleo, or you're going to eat one meal every day, or you're just going to eat, I don't know, oats, whatever that choice is. When you're focusing on the food, you're not focusing on your relationship with food. You don't have the mental space for it because all you're doing is thinking about food. You are far better off to eat whatever you want. Keep yourself in a calorie deficit. And that way, instead of thinking, oh my God, this cauliflower rice is disgusting, I don't think I can take this for another day, you're just sitting there eating your usual enchilada with slightly less cheese and slightly less sauce. So you came in on a deficit that day. And you have the time to think about things like, why am I eating? Why do I make the food choices that I make? I wonder why that triggered me and set off a food bender. You don't have time for any of that. Again, if you're too busy trying to figure out how to turn a cauliflower into a pizza crust. And I think sometimes that distraction, that focusing on the food, it really is a form of self-sabotage, but most people don't know that. Most people don't know that by focusing on the food, they're not leaving themselves the room to do that deeper work. And really, the diet industry doesn't want us to do the deeper work, because the more often we try and fail, the more money we make. It's like the grocery stores, right? The bigger we are, the more we eat, the more food they sell. The bigger we get, the more food we buy, the more they're these cycles. Well, the diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they want to keep making money. So if they can convince you that something will work and you try it, you invest in it for a little bit, and then you fall off, but then 6 months later, the next thing pops up, you're going to give that a try. And you're just caught in this endless wheel of consumption. And I don't know if they always know that this shit doesn't work, but you'd figure that somebody would have figured it out by now. Like, how long have some of these products been on the market? If they worked well for a lot of people, they would have become more popular. They would have started being looked like. I don't want to single out any particular companies, but let's look at some of the supplements or some of the shakes that are available for weight loss. Some of those products have been on the market my whole life. More than 40 years, these products have been out there. If they really worked, don't you think you'd know about it? And I understand that there are outliers. There are people who can try those shakes or try those supplements and it works for them. But for the average person, and that's what we're talking about here, for the average person. And you have to ask yourself, when you're looking at these new products or these old products or these fads, whatever they've come out with next, is this something that I can do long enough to get my weight off? And like we were talking about last week, losing a lot of weight takes time. So you've got time to figure this out. So I had 200 pounds to lose. It took me 2.5 years. I lost it at about 1.55 pounds a week. That was my pace. But even if just for math's sake and to kind of give yourself an idea, let's do a pound a week. Okay. Keep it a little, we'll lower the expectations a little bit. Even a pound a week is ambitious because nobody loses weight in a straight line. Let's say that you've got 100 pounds to lose. We're going to say a pound a week, right? We're going to keep it conservative. That's 100 weeks. That's a lot to have to deal with. So what you need to do is ask yourself, can I do this for 100 weeks? Can I go 2 years without bread? Can I go 2 years drinking this shake for 2 meals out of the day and then having something else for one of the other meals? Can I sustain this for 2 years? This is why we don't focus on the food. It's not about the food. It's about your relationship with food. Emotional eating ties back to one of 3 things: comfort, reward, or cope. You're eating to comfort an emotion, to reward an emotion, or to cope with an emotion. And you need to remember, we do this with negative things and positive things. Emotional eating seems to be very loaded. Oh, it's a negative thing. It's not always a negative thing. We're not always sitting there stuffing our faces because we feel sad or frustrated or distraught or whatever. It's not always negative. I was a happy eater. Loved to eat when I was happy. My early years with Sean were some of the happiest that I'd known up until that point, and I was gaining weight at a crazy clip. I was packing it on. I was happy. I was happy eating. Lots of us do that. So when you're looking at your emotional eating, when you're trying to figure out, you're triggered and you're trying to figure, am I eating? Why am I doing this? Start with those three things. But remember that it can be positive too. You could be eating not just because you're anxious, but because you're excited. And there's nothing wrong with emotional eating. I'm the last person who's going to tell you your goal should be to never emotionally eat again. I think that is a completely ridiculous thing to say to people. Everyone emotionally eats. And I think it's punitive and it's borderline cruel to look at somebody who, their best friend is food, their number one coping strategy their whole lives has been food. And we're going to say, here's the goal. I want you to never emotionally eat again. That's a good goal for you. You should focus on getting the ability to only ever eat when you are physically hungry. Well, what a load of horse shit. And what a horrible thing to say to somebody. That's crazy. We don't say that to healthy weighted people. We're not like, no, Gladys, you can't have cake because you have an emotional connection to today because it's your birthday and you're feeling happy. So no cake for you because that's emotional eating. We don't do that to anybody. Why are we doing that to fat people? It's ridiculous. So please don't think that that should be your goal. That's not the goal. The goal here is to become aware of when you're emotionally eating. It's to have the ability to discern between when you're physically hungry and when you're emotionally hungry. That's an important distinction to be able to make, but not with the end goal of eliminating one half of that equation. You just need to be aware of it so you can make better choices, so you can make more informed choices, so that you can change the way that you're talking to yourself and say things like, well, I did have a big lunch a couple of hours ago. So, all those hormones are still going through my brain that get released after I eat. So it might not be physical hunger at this point. It's probably emotional hunger. And you can talk to yourself. You can make different choices. You may still decide to have whatever it is you were going to have. But that little conversation might mean you take slightly less. It might mean you make a slightly different choice. It opens up doors for you instead of closing them. And just trying to shut down emotional eating, all that's doing is closing a door. And it doesn't work. Most people aren't going to understand what you're going through. I hope that you have super supportive people in your life who totally get it and don't give you a hard time and do nothing but provide you with positive encouragement, motivation, and support. But I've been doing this for a while, so I'm going to wish for that in one hand. And then in the other hand, I'm going to be very realistic about the fact that most of us don't get that. Most of us have people in our lives who aren't capable of understanding what we're going through for a whole bunch of reasons. And it's not always just your skinny friends who don't get it. That's a bit of a myth there too. You go into it thinking that your fat friends are going to get it, and maybe not. Sometimes they feel deeply betrayed. Sometimes they feel very judged, because if you feel like you have to lose weight and they're big too, then what do you think about them? It can cause all kinds of interesting friction and shift dynamics all over the place. And it's not that I'm saying that you shouldn't share your journey with people or that you shouldn't be open about what you're going through. You absolutely can and should. You should do whatever you're comfortable with. But do it with your eyes open, knowing that people aren't always going to understand what you're going through. And sometimes that lack of understanding also leads to a complete lack of empathy and no sympathy at all. And I found that very hard to deal with, at least initially when I was losing weight. People who I had thought were more supportive of me, or who maybe weren't thinking of me the way that I was afraid they were thinking of me, and it turned out that, yeah, they kind of were. Those were difficult things to reconcile myself to. And when you're looking for support and it isn't there, that can be very disappointing and very frustrating, especially when those people are close to you. So like I said, I really hope that everyone is very supportive. I hope you're surrounded by people who do nothing but love and encourage you. But I know that that's not always the case. Something else you need to know about dealing with other people on this weight loss journey is that other people are going to judge you no matter how you do it. And some of them are going to judge you harshly. Not everybody's going to like what you're doing. Not everyone's going to agree with what you're doing. Some people might argue with the basic premise that you need to lose weight at all. I had people looking at my 300-pound ass going, I think you're just fine. I'm not sure why you're doing this. I had people telling me after I lost 100 pounds and still had 100 pounds to go, you need to stop. You look sick. You're getting unhealthy. What are you doing? You're getting too thin. So the judgment is going to be there. And some people are going to judge your method. Even if you're doing the standard, I'm doing diet and exercise, you're doing exactly what you've always been told that you're supposed to do. There are still going to be people who are like, why? Why would you bother? Have you tried keto? Did you try carnivore? Have you considered having gastric bypass surgery? Why wouldn't you just have the surgery? You're going to get judged. I hope you don't. I really hope you don't. Most people do. You have more than likely already encountered some judgment on this journey. People would look me right in my face and tell me I was a liar when I told them how I was losing weight. They didn't like it. Now, I presented it in a way that was maybe deliberately triggering. I guess it wasn't initially, but then I figured out how triggering it was for people. And I was like a little kid. I was just like, this is so much fun. I have to keep going. Because people would ask me, oh my God, you look amazing. What are you doing? How are you losing weight? And I would look at them and I would go, I'm eating whatever I want, but only at night. And that, heads would start to explode. And it was funny. It did get funny after a certain point, but I learned to say things a little bit differently depending on who I was talking to if I didn't want to deal with the aftermath of that statement. Because people lost their minds. You're not supposed to eat at night. You're definitely not supposed to eat whatever you want if you're losing weight. And that comes back to the whole punitive thing. And I have no time or patience for that. Fat people don't deserve to be punished. I shouldn't have to sit and eat gruel all day and only be allowed to have like leeks and beets because I let myself get fat. Thanks, Gladys. And I deserve to have to suffer to get it off. Eat shit. No, I don't. No one does. No one does. Weight loss is punitive enough. We are beating ourselves up enough. We don't need other people to do it for us, and we don't need weight loss methods that are designed to make us miserable. If you want people to be able to keep going, why would you make the weight loss method so unpalatable and so hard to execute? It doesn't make any sense at all. But now we're back to just punishing people, right? Do they actually want us to lose weight, or do they just want to see us suffer? No time for this attitude. Your weight loss can trigger other people, and it's not always pretty. The first time I lost weight, I really struggled with this one, but I pretty much cut out all the noise the second time around. Plus, I was coming off the whole almost dying thing, so I didn't give a shit what anybody thought, and I knew what worked, so I just went with it and kind of ignored everyone. But sometimes when we're losing weight, our weight loss is like holding up a mirror for other people to see themselves. And that can be really hard. It can be really hard on relationships. It can be really hard on friendships. It's tricky, and it's a hard thing to have to navigate with somebody else when you're losing weight and maybe they wish they were losing weight, but they're not. Hard feelings can start to come up. You can see, and you've probably already had to live with some of these dynamics. It's tough when, you've got a friend group and you guys have all been fat together and you enjoy eating together, and it becomes a part of the dynamic itself. Your fatness together becomes a part of it. And then one of you pulls back and changes that, and it kind of things can get rocky. We see this a lot in the body positivity movement, where someone has been very active in that community and they decide for whatever reason that they're going to take some weight off. And you watch in real time what can happen when everybody starts to turn on them and people feel betrayed and people feel left behind. It brings up a lot of emotions for people. But the faster that you can realize that whatever someone else is saying has more to do with how they feel about themselves than how they feel about you, even though they're talking about you and possibly to you, the better off you're going to be. It's not about you. You are just the mirror. Your weight loss has set off big feelings for them And now they're going to take it out on you. And maybe they're not even processing that themselves. And probably they're not. But if you can learn to look at it like that, if you can maybe make it less personal and turn it back around and go, okay, why is she saying all this stuff about me? What does that say about how she feels about herself? She's the one who said it. So it's about her, even if she thinks she's talking about you. People can be nasty and that poison can just seep out. And it's not an easy thing for you to have to handle, especially when you're already dealing with, oh, I don't know, trying to lose a significant amount of weight. That's a lot to process. Then you have to start trying to manage other people's feelings too, which you cannot do. Nobody can. Also, it's not your job, but it can be very, very hard to distance yourself from that because it feels like you have to distance yourself from the person. And sometimes you have to, but it gets a lot easier to handle. It gets easier to manage your own feelings if you try to look at it like, I don't think she's talking about me right now. I'm pretty sure this is about how she feels about herself. And she's angry and she's lashing out and she's blaming me, but I'm not so sure this is about me because I know I'm not the one to blame here. I also think you need to remember that just because you trigger someone else, it's not your responsibility to deal with that. It's not your fault that they are triggered, even though you're the one who triggered it. You didn't put the trigger in place, right? That's like blaming the animal in the forest who steps into the trap because they triggered the trap. Well, they didn't put that trap there. They didn't even know it was there. I had no idea when I was talking to you that you've been battling your weight for however long, or you had gastric bypass surgery and you're feeling self-conscious because I didn't lose my weight with gastric bypass surgery. So you feel like I'm judging you when I didn't even know. So I'm definitely not judging you. I'm just talking about myself. And that's the thing, right? We're human beings. We're all very self-absorbed. You think somebody's sitting at home worrying about you and thinking about you? No, probably not. They're sitting at home doing what you're doing, worrying about yourself, thinking about yourself, replaying the things that you might have done wrong while they're doing that at their place too. You didn't put the trap there. You just triggered it. So they're going to have to deal with it because you can't fix it anyway. Liquid calories are a key thing to control. Things like smoothies, they're not helping. They're totally fine generally. I'm not like anti-smoothies as a human being. I'm just anti-smoothies for weight loss because they're not helpful. They're really not overly helpful when you're trying to lose weight. But it's a satiety thing, right? That's a lot of calories to drink. I'm just saying I prefer to eat my calories. And that was the decision that I had to make when I started losing weight. I really did not want to give up my pop. No, and I was drinking 4 liters a day, 1,500 plus calories every single day just in cola. It's kind of a lot. But you're sitting there doing the math and you go 1,500 calories that I could be eating right now instead of drinking them. Yeah, I think I'm going to make the switch to diet. I think that's probably the way to go. The liquid calories just aren't as satisfying overall. They aren't. It's not bulk. It's just going to run through your system. And you can do that with water. Do that with water. Get the bulk with water. No calories. Use water with drops. We talked about this before. There's no problem. There's no shame in the drops. Get it in however you have to get it in. But you're not registering the calories from the liquids in the same way that you're registering the calories from the food, right? You're just sitting there sipping away. It's a casual thing, a little bit here, a little bit there. And the next thing you know, you've taken in 1,200 calories worth of Starbucks every single day. The smoothie's super healthy. It's all fruit. You popped in some protein powder, a little booster. It's too bad it's more than half your day's calories and you're going to be hungry again. You're probably eating while you drink it and you're going to be hungry again later. Learning to control those liquid calories is key because it's a way you can give yourself more calories back. And I'm not saying all liquids have to be 0 calories. I'm not a lunatic. Whatever, balance this out however you have to. I find ways to work stuff in all the time. I worked in a chai latte just yesterday. It's doable. You can do it. But it is going to be a lot easier to manage those calories and keep eating whatever you want if you can get the liquid calories under control. Last up today is one of my favorite sayings of all time. And if you're in the program or if you're in the Flamingo Forum, this is something that you hear me say fairly often. But you can't change what you can't see. And you especially can't change what you won't see. Awareness is the first step for me with everything. Why? Because you can't change what you can't see. And I am a perfect example of this. I weighed 338 pounds and I would look you dead in the eyes and go, I just don't understand why I'm so big when I eat so little. Can't change what you can't see. And I know I'm not the only person in that situation. I hear that almost every day from people. If I had opened my eyes, if I had been willing to make myself aware of what I was doing, the reality is I was taking in probably about 4,200 calories a day, some days more, but I had no idea. I didn't understand how quickly things built up. I didn't understand that there was 100 calories of butter. I didn't understand that there was 400 calories of salad dressing in my bowl. I just thought salad was healthy. There was all kinds of stuff that I wasn't aware of that I had no way of changing because I couldn't see it. And awareness is scary. Another example of this is a bender, right? A food binge. There's a lot of willful denial that can go hand in hand with obesity. We don't want to see it. I didn't have a handle on how big I was. I mean, I was, pulling myself into a pair of size 24 pants, but I was still in denial about my size. I was in denial about how much I was eating, and I was definitely in denial about how calorie dense the food was I was eating. Once I opened my eyes and took a look at it, as scary as it was to learn things like, holy shit, if I measure out the dressing on my salad, I'm actually putting in like a cup of salad dressing. That's kind of a lot, but I couldn't change it. I couldn't start using slightly less salad dressing each time until I had a baseline and I knew how much salad dressing I was using in the first place. I needed that awareness, even though it was scary, even though I didn't want to know, because a cup is 16 tablespoons. And so, yeah, and Thousand Island dressing can be, over 100 calories per 2 tablespoons. So that's, 800 calories worth of salad dressing just on a salad. And I couldn't figure out why I was so big. I needed more awareness. I needed to start to understand what I was doing. And that applied to everything. It applied to things like standing in the fridge and eating with the door open, which you guys know was a safety net I put in place. I couldn't eat while standing. I couldn't eat if the fridge door was open. I couldn't eat if I was standing at the fridge. And then ultimately it became, I'm not going to eat if I'm standing, because I looked at what I was doing. I tried to make myself as aware as I could. And I went, holy shit, I'm eating however many calories just standing there in the fridge looking for something to eat. Awareness can be terrifying, but it can also be the thing that sets you free, because you can't change what you can't see. All right, so next week we're going to be back. We're going to keep gunning through our list. After we do this series, we're going to be doing some more Ask Whatevers. So start sending your questions in now so that you can get to the top of the list. And be sure to check out my website, disruptingobesity.com. You can leave your questions there, and you can grab some of my free resources while you're at it. Flamingo Forum is currently accepting new members. So if you would like to join me and other women from all over who are coming together to lose their weight and change their relationship with food, head on over to the Flamingo Forum page and check it out. I can't wait to see you next week for episode 103. In the meantime, keep trying, keep tracking. Don't be intimidated and don't give up. You've totally got this. Thank you for listening to Disrupting Obesity with Charlotte Skanes. If you know it's time to take back control, lose the weight, and keep it off, reach out to me privately with a direct message on Instagram that says ready, so you can start disrupting obesity.